There is no failure. There's only feedback.
Are you ready to make the most of the only life you have? To make smart money choices focused on achieving what you care about most? Here to help you balance living well today without sacrificing your tomorrow is the Retirement Answer Man, Roger Whitney.
That is a quote that I have learned to live by. I, Roger Whitney, have had a lot of quote-unquote failure in my life. Many times, the failure happens in the exact same area over and over again because I'm so hard-headed. And now I'm 49. Next month, I'm going to be 50. And when you get around 40, 50, or 60, you have enough life experience where you're going to have a lot of failures, aren't you? Whether it was failing to save, failing to be a great father or mother, failing to not overspend during Christmas, I don't know. All of these things can pile up on us. And it's easy to just say, we are a failure in that one area and we're never going to change, which is not true. Every day we get a chance to iterate again and learn the lessons. And I know in my life that has been huge. I'll give you a real quick example. My first experience speaking to the public was in 9th grade when I was on the debate team. I was a freshman in high school. We went off to a tournament, and it was my first debate ever. And I got up there. I had 8 minutes. Everybody's looking at me, and I'm looking at my feet, and I'm shuffling. And I go, I don't know what to say. And then I sat back down. I was a failure at debate my freshman year. By my senior year, I was competing on the state level, and now look at me now. This is the 150th episode of a podcast where I get to talk to you. We can fail over and over again, but it's just feedback to make us better. So we'll deep dive into that from a financial perspective later on, but here we are a few days before Christmas. So what I thought I would do is talk about feedback and giving you an idea of the results of the listener survey. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about your fellow listeners, and I'm going to share some of the feedback that you have given me and address some of those, then tell you about some of the cool changes we're going to have to the show for 2017, because this show is about you creating a great life in retirement. And then finally, in the practical planning segment, I'm going to share some listener comments on some book summaries from Mark and Rocky and Cindy, so maybe you can pick up a cool book to read over the holidays. But before we do that, let's get on to that all-important disclaimer. Time for that all-important disclaimer. Real simple. Is don't take advice from me on the show. I work as a fiduciary to clients that I walk life with. I know enough about them to speak into their life. You, I don't know, and you don't know me that well. So think of this as helpful hints and education, and talk to your legal advisor, your tax advisor, or your financial advisor before you make any decisions. That's just common sense. There's more legalese at the back of the show that you are welcome to listen to. But now, let's get on and talk about who you are as listeners. So recently we closed out the 2016 Retirement Answer Man listener survey, where I received over 220 responses from you, letting me know a little bit about you, but just as importantly, giving me feedback on what you like, what you hate, what's so-so, and what you want to hear more of. So I thought I'd give you a little window into who you are as far as the fellow listeners. So I'll just go through these questions. There's only 10, so it should be pretty simple. Over 47% of you found the show via iTunes. Next highest was 30% who heard me on some other podcast, which I periodically get interviewed on other podcasts, so that's sort of cool. And about 14% of you found the show via Google search, which always amazes me that you can just randomly find it. Interestingly, as much as everybody makes such a hubbub about social media, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, and everything else, only like 2% of you found the show via those avenues. So I think it goes back to all this social stuff. It's great, but it's really about connecting with people. So who are you in terms of your demographic? So how old are the listeners of the Retirement Answer Man show? So about 16% of you are over 61. That's cool. They know what podcasts are. See, I love people that stay hip and know all the new technologies. 55% of you are between 50 and 60 years old. That's a huge chunk. makes total sense. 41 to 50% of you are, no, 19% of you are between 41 and 50 years old. So you're starting to think about retirement. Now, about 9% of you are 40 and younger. Actually, about 2% of you are under 30 years old. And you must have old souls to be thinking about retirement so soon. On one hand, I want to congratulate you for being so intentional. On the other hand, I'm like, go listen to something a little cooler than me. But so the big chunk of us are all in that spot, between 50 and 60 years old, when we're really struggling with that transition to that more independent style of life. So I think that's important, especially as you hear some of the changes we're going to do this show, because we're walking the same journeys and we're dealing with a lot of the same issues. So we can crowdsource a lot of the answers together. Now, in terms of male, female, about 75% of you are male and 25% are female, which really shocked me because I always thought I did really well with the ladies, but evidently not. But anyway, about 75% of you are male, 25% are female, so we have to be conscious of that so we make sure we addressed everybody. The vast majority of you are married in some fashion, but there's a good percentage of you that are not, that either are divorced or never married. So we'll make sure we have to address that segment as well. A lot of times I talk in married terms, and I may miss out on addressing some of the concerns, so that's important. About 65% of you do not use a financial planner or a financial advisor, which doesn't really surprise me because podcast means you're really engaged, so you're not normally a delegator, which is totally fine with me. Then I asked you to rate the segments of the show in terms of which ones you like the most and which ones you like the least. If you recall, in 2016, this was a new format. We went to a segmented format to try to create a little bit better flow and keep me on point a little bit more so I don't just ramble on. So what was the top segment of the show? It was the practical planning segment. 46% of you said that was your favorite segment, where we answer listener questions, I monologue about a topic, and we have interviews. The next most liked segment, surprising to me, was the Smart Sprint. Actually, about 44% of you said it was your first or second choice as the best segment. So it came in a solid number 2 of setting a weekly action item to take a little baby step towards creating plans. So that's interesting to know. So I'll talk about that in a little later, but we'll make some changes to that hopefully to make it even more powerful. Now, by far the least favorite segment of the show is the What Does That Mean segment. That's the segment where we take a term and define it. So we're going to make some adjustments to that, and really we're probably just going to eliminate that one because that doesn't seem to be one that resonates. And then the third best was the Hot Topic segment of something a little bit more timely. So by far, it was you wanted the meat of either answering your questions, going in depth on a subject, or talking to an expert. So we'll make sure we take that into consideration. The next question in the survey was, okay, what do you want to see more of? Now, think about what that answer is in your head, because I'm going to tell you by a mile what you want to see more of are case studies. Things like Can Carl retire, Bill and Sally, and then the case study we had last year. 56% of you said, I want to see more of that. If you combine, you go backwards, who rated that number 2, it ends up to being like 68% really want to see more case studies. Everything else, webinars, exclusive research, how-to videos, guest experts, all of those were all pretty much in a pack. It was case studies by a mile. Now, question 7 was, what excites you most about retirement? I like these questions, this one and what worries you most, and then the last one, how could it be better? Because you get to express in your own words rather than me having you show a box. Again, by a country mile, what excites you most about retirement, most as an audience, is freedom. Freedom of your time, not getting pulled in 5 directions at once, schedule freedom, not putting up with office politics, freedom to do more non-work activities, not working, freedom, free time with family, flexibility, not working. I'm just reading these off. Freedom to leverage time the way I want. Freedom, freedom, freedom is what people are excited about most in retirement. Now, I think that's really interesting. It makes total sense. It's not working for the most part. It's having freedom over your time. And we'll explore that on future episodes. But by far, freedom was the thing that you were most excited about. You move after that, then it's the normal things, family, traveling, interests, and things like that. But all wrapped around this freedom, this concept of freedom over and having the ability to do what you want to do. Now, when I flipped it and asked, what are you most concerned about or worried about in retirement, 3 things rose to the top, but there are a lot of very specific answers. But the top 3 were surrounded about having enough money to make it work, not running out of money, making sure you're okay, not outlasting your savings. By far, number 1 was worrying about running out of money. Again, very logical. The second was healthcare costs. Was the fear of having healthcare costs escalate to destroy your nest egg, either for you or for your loved one. And then lastly, the last concern, which was right up there with healthcare costs, was worrying about the markets and how do you build a portfolio? How do you actually manage the money so you can live, but also so you can not run out of it? So those are the top concerns that you shared. So lastly, in the survey, I want to get to some of your comments about how we could make the show better. Now, you may agree with some of these. You may think some of them are total bunk. This is where you guys really didn't hold back in expressing yourself. I got a few people here that wrote a couple paragraphs, which is hilarious. And I loved reading each one of these. I sort of cringed when I opened it up, but for the most part, they were great. So I want to read a couple of your comments and then give you some feedback on those. So one said, I often find gems of information in a show with a title that didn't grab me. I'm not sure how to solve that. The easiest way to solve that is if you go to rogerwhitney.com and click on blog, there is a show note outline with timestamps showing what is talked about in each segment of the show. Because it's a segmented show, there's never one major theme, or at least most times there's not. But if you go to the show notes in the blog section of the website, you'll get a time-stamped outline with what I'm talking about in each section. So that might help you. The second comment, which is great, says, all the information is free, so it can't get any better for me. Amen. It's free. The third comment made me laugh. I don't know. It's not really feedback. It was, I'm going to use the voice I heard. It's okay so far. That's pretty much all they had to say. Another person said, Roger is pretty corny sometimes, but that's what I like about him. Excuse me, I don't know what you're talking about. I am not corny. I am a cool ladies' man. I'll just ask my wife. Anyway, maybe some case studies of some more unconventional retirement strategies. Great idea. Another comment said, I would encourage you to interview people who have recently retired over the last 5 years and have them share their real life ups and downs and what it's been like for them just on the other side. Good idea. That's a great idea to get some lessons from people that have already done it to see what they might have done differently. Another listener says, I love the show and it's helpful, but I wish it was in written form on your website because most times I can't listen and I prefer to read. Well, I don't know if I'm going to go back to transcription. We used to transcribe every show, but what we are going to start doing is publishing a blog based off of podcast episodes once a week. So that may give you some reading material. Here's one that I love because I learned a new word. Get to the point quicker. Less prattling on would be nice. The show could be shorter and keep my attention better if it was less wordy. Love it. Prattling. I had never heard that word before, and I had to look it up. So for those of you that also don't know the word prattle, prattle means to talk at length in a foolish or inconsequential way. All right. I'll try to be more concise. Another person said, spend more time on the technical planning and less on the squishy stuff. Now, I had a number of comments like that where they didn't like a lot of the holistic life discussion that we've had outside of the numbers. I had others, interestingly, that said they love that part of it. And I think I just have to work on integrating the two very well, that we go in depth on the technical part because that's important, but not forget that our life is very much beyond the math. So I got feedback from both sides, and I think we just need to slowly iterate that to make it work for everybody. As case in point, next person said, please continue your focus on living in a happy and healthy life. That is what I value most about your particular podcast. All right, see, so we'll go both ways. Next person, a little bit more analytics and a little less fluff would be welcome, but keep it fun like now. Well, hey, it's fun. See, I'm not corny. I'm fun. And then lastly, go more in depth on topics instead of a general overview. And I got some feedback that the earlier shows were a little bit more in depth, and that's probably because they weren't segmented. But of the 200 plus comments, I tell you, I read every one and I actually organize them into a spreadsheet like I did last year so I can learn from them and try to shape the show to serve you best. So the question is, what are going to be some changes for 2017? Well, the first change is we are going to eliminate the what does that mean segment. Nobody really likes it. It doesn't add enough to the show from all the feedback I got. And if we have 35 to 40 minutes together, maybe we could better use that time in things you actually do care about. So we're going to eliminate the What's That Mean segment starting in January. The second thing we're going to do is Retirement Plan Live. Now, I talked about that last week. I've already had some listeners step up to talk to me about becoming the subject for our listener retirement case study, which is one thing you all said you wanted more of. So if you can still put your name in the hat for that by emailing me at roger@wwkllc.com. Just put RPL 2017 in the title, and my assistant Nicole, my rockstar teammate Nicole, will reach out to you to set up a time for us to have a brief conversation. So we're going to do not just one retirement plan live in 2017. We're going to do the one in February, but then starting in the June area, June, July, we're going to do a second live case study those usually last a whole month with a webinar with the results show. So we're going to do two more in-depth case studies, and I'll try to pick people that are different. So we'll have a mix of different situations. So that's one thing we're going to do is I'm going to step up the case study game because that's what you're telling me to do. The third thing we're going to do is, in addition to the 2 retirement plan lives for 2017, I'm going to experiment with some mini retirement case studies. So rather than be this full out 4 or 5 week series of interviews, is to do mini case studies on specific issues. Maybe it's, here's Sally and John, here's what their situation is. They need to evaluate whether they need long-term care or how they could save more. Or another topic might be, they're way behind on their savings. What do they do? Or how do they earn more money? Or they're single and they don't know how to manage and grow older as a single person and deal with this, the special issues to that single person. So we're going to do very specific case studies, and we're going to take a person or persons. We're going to give you a fact set of what their overall situation is, what the issue it is that they're facing, and then work through some possible solutions for them on that specific issue. And if that goes well, then we'll write those up into specific white papers that you can get in the library or the learning center with the resources that we reference to help if you're facing something similar. So I think that might be sort of fun. In addition to that, we're going to include these post-retirement journeys where I'm going to have to find some people that are on the other side of retirement and interview them about their lessons learned and what they wish they would have known or would have done. And then lastly, we'll make sure we mix up the age groups again. We'll talk to people in their 60s and in their 50s and in their 40s and even in their 30s so we can make sure that we get a robust... Wait, stop. I'm plattering about. Go on, you get the picture. And the last big change for 2017 is I'm going to have some of my handcuffs taken off of me. Now, it's not going to be full-blown Roger Unplugged, but on December 27th, and I'll talk about this in the next episode, I am dropping my securities licenses. So back in 1990, when I got into the business, I got almost every security license you could imagine, which allows you to sell things on a commission basis. And I've had those licenses for the last 26 years. And I've maintained them mainly because in my office, I have some supervisory responsibilities for other advisors who do some of that type of business. Even though I don't, I'm a fee-based planner. So we've made some reorganization efforts in our company to allow me to drop those licenses, which means I can say things much more freely than I could otherwise. And I'll explain a little bit about this more fully, but it's going to allow me to talk about things that I haven't been able to talk about in a very direct way. So you get the point. So I think that's going to really help enrich the overall conversation. So I'm excited about that for next year. All right, so that is roughly who you are as a listenership and the feedback that you've given me. I don't think of any of those things as failure, even the paddling. I'll work on that. Now, I need to move forward and iterate to make this an even better show and more impactful for you so you can create a great life. As always, if you ever have feedback or questions, go to rogerwhitney.com, click on Ask Roger a Question, and you can give me feedback directly there. I read everyone and I respond to everyone. Now, let's talk about some possible reading you can do over the holidays. Well, welcome to the Practical Planning segment. I have a couple of housekeeping issues I want to take care of, and then we'll read a couple of the book reviews, and Rocky recorded one, which was nice of him, so we'll talk about a couple books. So first off, over the last 2 years, I've been doing flat fee engagements and helping people build retirement roadmaps. And you can learn about it at rogerwhitney.com/plan now. And this has been a limited engagement where you hire me for a fee to help walk you through the entire process, similar to what we do in the case studies. And at the end of it, you leave with an analysis of what is a negotiated solution of what's possible and specific action items to start walking that direction. So I've been doing that for 2 years. At the end of this year, I am no longer going to be offering that. Currently, I think the flat fee is $2,000. So at December 31st, that will be down from the website. I will be launching something new that will be a little bit longer in engagement, but it will cost more than twice as much. So just an FYI, this isn't a sales tactic. This is really happening. I've been doing so many of these, and I love doing them because I love being able to speak into someone's life and not let them have somebody worry about trying to grab their assets or upsell them. It's really an engagement where we all get to work together. The problem is, from a business perspective, it takes a lot of time, and I have to make sure I'm focusing on where my obligations are. So at the end of this year, that will no longer be offered. Now, anybody that that wants this roadmap, if you contact us and we discuss it and we start this process before the end of the year, I will honor that. But I just want to make sure you're aware of that in case you were thinking about it. Secondly, Ken emailed me, and Ken is a longtime listener. I love Ken because he emails me just sporadically. And he said he enjoyed me sharing my experience about my Bose headphones, and he said he went through a similar experience when he bought some Bluetooth headphones. And he says he spends a lot of time researching. And he said he was curious about the Bose headphones. Did I find them as great as advertised? And on reflection, would I do it the same way in an instant? If you recall, last week I just on a whim bought these. I'd researched them, but it was a real spontaneous purchase. And basically what I told him, would I do it in an instant again? Yes, I love them. I use them almost every day. I use them in the office while I'm working. It's a great way to just let people know, hey, I'm working here. Keep walking. When I'm in a Starbucks where I work remotely a lot. So yes, I love them. They definitely have lived up to the build. But would I do it in the same way? No, I wouldn't, because it was spontaneous. I'd woken up that morning with no intent of buying them. I just happened to be walking by them in the airport, went and, I'm going to go look at them, and just bought them. I mean, that's a fairly large purchase to make that way, $340, whether you can afford it or not. I wouldn't have bought them that way because I didn't like the way it was done. If you talk about failure as feedback, I act very fast. I do that very well, and it generally serves me well because I'm very agile. But that strength is a weakness when it comes to gadgets for me. So I would not have done it in the same way. And that's where it's a failure. Now it's feedback, and I beat myself up a little bit, but I do still like them. So thanks for asking, Ken. So let's get to a couple book recommendations. Now, Mark's book recommendation was Bounce Back, Overcoming Setbacks to Succeed in Business and in Life. So I'm just going to read you Mark's comments. Impact. I am admittedly fascinated by coaches. Good ones are able to get the most out of each athlete's ability, and the result is a greater accomplishment than the athlete thought was possible. Now I'm going to mess up this guy's name. Jim Calipari, I think that's the author, offers encouragement and inspiration in this book. And it helped me understand that although devastating setbacks are painful, they can be launching pads for future successes. I learned the concept that he calls what matters now, that has helped me to focus less on the negatives surrounding failure, but rather on actions that can be taken to improve the situation. What people will learn, he says, the coach presents practical structure to not letting failures get the best of you, using some of his own personal examples. Because people face different circumstances at different points in time, the book may provide new answers with a reread. So the book is Bounce Back, Overcoming Setbacks to Success in Business and in Life. You know, I didn't even realize that this was going to tie into my failure quote, but that's a great recommendation. I have not read this, Mark, so I will check it out. Now, the second book recommendation is from Cindy, and the book is Winning the Loser's Game, The Timeless Strategies for Successful Investing by Charles D. Ellis. Now, from an investing standpoint, this is one of my favorite books. It is a great book. This is one that has stood the test of time. Now, rather than just give a recommendation, Cindy actually created a 2-page excerpt from the book. So, Cindy, you get extra credit. You were one of those kids in high school that just bugged the crap out of me, right? You always did the extra work and got the extra credit. No, this is awesome. So what I'm going to do, rather than read through this, is I'm going to create this as a PDF and send it to everyone via 6-Shot Saturday. So, Cindy, your comments are going to the world, so I hope all the spelling is correct. So I'm going to share Cindy's excerpts from Winning the Loser's Game, The Timeless Strategies for Successful Investing by Charles Ellis, which is a great book, and Cindy pulled out some of the most important lessons to learn from it. So great job, Cindy. So Rocky was kind enough to leave an audio summary of a couple books that he thinks are really important. One is Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon Hill, and the other is Drift by Michael Hyatt, which is a great book that went with that 5 Days to Your Best Year Ever program that we talked about over the last few weeks. This is a book that helps you execute that exact program. So, Rocky, why don't you tell us about these books?
Thanks, Roger, for doing this. It's Rocky from richersoul.com. I sent in 2 books that go together. The first is Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon Hill, and the second is Living Forward by Michael Hyatt. In Outwitting the Devil, which was written in 1938, it was actually locked away for 70 years until 2001 because his family wouldn't let him publish the book out of fear. Essentially, the book is an interview with the devil and how the devil wins. The secret is the drift. When people drift, or in other words, don't have a purpose, the devil wins. People who control their minds win. In the book, he says 98% of the people are in the drift. Think of how many people come in and ask for financial questions of you, but when you ask them about life goals, they're uncertain, vague, or don't have a clear target. That's the drift. Things that put us into the drift are fear, loss of self-confidence, laziness, societal structures such as school and religion, among other things. Children are sent to school to get credits and learn how to memorize, not how to learn what they want from life. Choices are limited. You are told what to do. Creativity is taken away. Thinking for yourself is removed. Hence the drift. Many religious people do not allow others to question the doctrine, to think for themselves. Removing the question leads to the drift. Next book, How to Build Your Plan, Living Forward. A proven plan to stop drifting and get what you want in life by Michael Hyatt. This book is simply the result of him helping thousands of people create and implement a life plan. In his usual style, he breaks it down so simply and easily and provides countless examples of life plans. It's short and easy read that can actually get you moving to bigger goals and outcomes. He helps you create the plan and then shows you how to implement the plan once it's written so it doesn't sit on a shelf, never to be looked at again. It goes through all parts of your life, helps you determine how you want them to look like, and then you create the steps to get there. The best part is when you are not in the drift, answering difficult life questions becomes so easy because you have a course set and you know what you want. Let's face it, how many of you are saying, how did I get here in my life? I didn't think this is where I would be. With a plan and a definite purpose, opportunities just present themselves. The book will make it easy for you, and don't forget to go to his site and get the bonus materials. Thanks, Roger. Hope this helps, and I look forward to hearing other book reviews from other of your listeners. Have a wonderful weekend.
So hopefully this gave you a few ideas for some books to buy over the holiday season. If you would like to leave a book review, either via audio like Rocky or in text form, you can go to rogerwhitney.com, click on Ask Roger a Question, and you have the option of doing both, and maybe I'll share your book excerpt on the show. Now let's find out what we should be doing this week.
On your marks, get set.
All right, welcome to the Smart Sprint segment where we set a 7-day goal to take a little step forward in our lives. And you know this is coming. This is the holiday season. My wife is off for a week of work. Both my kids are home from college. I don't know what's going on in your life, but whatever it is, in the next 7 days, make a commitment to take a step back and not worry about it. Don't worry about the fact that you may not be saving enough, or that you had a bad year at work, or that investment returns, you made some investment mistakes. It doesn't matter. Take some time, relax, look back at the year, take what you perceive as a failure, look at it as feedback, and just enjoy your life. Give yourself a break and enjoy your family. So from my family to yours, I wish you a Merry Christmas. I wish you a happy holiday. Hey, welcome to the Happy Lab, where we noodle on the happier part of life. I'm going to stick with this idea of failure as feedback, because in my life, I had a hard journey dealing with failure, where I looked at myself as broken, and I was never going to evolve and get better in a lot of areas of my life. And I slowly learned through a lot of hard lessons that failure is just feedback, and every day we can start anew. And what that will do, if you can start to do that very quickly, is to accept what's happened, go through a super grieving process, and look forward, is it will allow you to continue to have a growth mindset in every area of your life. And this isn't touchy-feely stuff now. This isn't squishy stuff. This can be in your career. This can be in how you invest, in how you plan your retirement. This is important. If you want to have a successful life, if you want to be a successful investor, a successful business person, whatever it is, you got to do this, because you have to move your sights away from looking backward and only on looking forward. You take the failures as feedback and you look at what you can do better moving forward. And that's going to make you happier, because that's going to get you engaged. So that's my tip for the day. Hey, I want to thank you so much for joining me on this Junk Drawer Retirement Answer Man show. Look forward to talking to you next week. Have a wonderful holiday, and God bless you. Until next week, this is Roger Whitney, the Retirement Answer Man.
We appreciate you joining us today for this episode of Retirement Answer Man. Be sure to visit rogerwhitney.com/answers to access the Retirement Answer Library with over 30 checklists to help you make the most of the only life you have. Remember, you have more power than you realize to create an amazing life starting today with Retirement Answer Man. The opinions voiced in this material are for general information only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. All performance referenced is historical and no guarantee of future results. All indices are unmanaged and may not be invested into directly. Have a wonderful day.